As you hear these words, something profound has already shifted within you. A hidden door has opened. You may not fully grasp it yet, but you have stepped into a new dimension of awareness, the state we call quantum consciousness. It is not a theory or a distant dream. It is the living reality you are entering right now, in this very breath. Think about it. Of all the places you could be, of all the distractions pulling for your attention, you found yourself here. Not by accident, not by coincidence. Something far deeper, a wisdom that lives beyond your thoughts, has guided you to this moment. And if you notice even the faintest resonance in your chest, that subtle pull inside that whispers, "Yes, this is for me," understand that it is not fantasy. It is the recognition of truth. Quantum consciousness is the shift from believing you are separate, small, and powerless, to realizing you are woven into the fabric of reality itself. It is the awakening that shows you your thoughts are not private sparks fading into nothing, but waves that ripple through the universe and return as experience, synchronicity, and possibility. And the fact that you are here, listening, is the clearest sign that this awakening has already begun within. You, at first, it may feel delicate, like a whisper at the edge of your awareness. But look closer. Notice how your breath slows. Notice the stillness between your thoughts. Notice the strange sense that life is no longer random, that there is a pattern revealing itself. This is what it feels like to touch the field of quantum consciousness. Once you feel it, even for a moment, you cannot unsee it. And because this is not just another video, not just another idea you'll forget tomorrow, I want to invite you to anchor this moment. Subscribe now. Not as a casual click, but as a conscious act of alignment. The same intelligence that led you here will continue to bring the right words, the right guidance, the right reminders at exactly the right time. By subscribing, you're saying yes to your own evolution, yes to staying connected to the field, yes to walking this path with clarity and strength. So breathe deeply. Recognize this moment for what it is. You are not waiting for awakening to arrive. It is happening. Now. You have already unlocked quantum consciousness, and from this point forward, nothing in your reality will ever look the same again. There is a point in life when something shifts so profoundly within you that it cannot be undone. It does not matter how skeptical your mind may be, how much you try to rationalize it, or how quickly you attempt to dismiss it as coincidence. Once you cross this invisible threshold, you cannot return to the old way of seeing reality. That threshold is the awakening of quantum consciousness. At first it may arrive gently, a dream that lingers in your memory with a strange clarity, a sudden moment of intuition that proves more accurate than logic, a conversation that feels divinely timed, as if scripted by an unseen hand. You might brush it aside, call it luck, call it chance, but deep down, something whispers that it is more than that. These are the subtle markers that you have already stepped across the line, separating ordinary awareness from expanded perception. To live before the threshold is to feel cut off, fragmented, powerless. Reality appears random, and you, a tiny figure moving helplessly through it. But the moment you cross, the moment your awareness shifts even slightly, the illusion begins to crumble. You start to sense a pattern beneath the chaos, a quiet intelligence at work in the details of your life. Suddenly you notice how certain people arrive exactly when you need them, how opportunities unfold with uncanny precision, how even challenges contain hidden guidance. You realize life is not happening to you but through you and with you. Imagine walking your entire life in a darkened room. You learn to navigate the shadows, you memorize the obstacles, you stumble and adapt. You believe the darkness is all there is. Then, without warning, the light switches on. Instantly, everything that was hidden becomes visible. The walls, the furniture, the pathways you could never see. Nothing about the room itself has changed, only your perception has. This is the essence of crossing the threshold into quantum consciousness. Reality was always alive, intelligent, and interconnected. But until now, you lacked the awareness to perceive it. And this moment, the one you are living right now, is proof that you have already stepped into the light. The very fact that You are drawn to these words. That you feel a resonance, even if you cannot explain it, is evidence that the threshold has been crossed. Because ordinary consciousness would have scrolled away, distracted, uninterested. But something within you chose to stay. Something within you recognized itself here. Crossing this threshold also carries weight. It is not only a gift, but a responsibility. Once you glimpse the truth that your consciousness is entangled with the fabric of reality itself, you can no longer pretend you are powerless. You can no longer reduce yourself to chance or fate or luck. You see now that your thoughts ripple outward, that your emotions radiate frequencies, that your very presence bends reality in ways both subtle and profound. This realization can feel heavy at first, overwhelming even, but it is also liberating, because it means you are not trapped. You never were. And yet, do not mistake this awakening as an endpoint. It is not the finish line of your journey, but the gateway to it. Crossing the threshold is only the beginning. Beyond it lies a new landscape, one where synchronicity becomes your language, intuition your compass, and presence your greatest power. Here, you begin to see that life has always been more than a sequence of random events. It has always been choreography, guided by your higher self, unfolding with purpose and precision. From this moment forward, the old illusion of separation will never fully satisfy you again. You will always know, deep down, that something greater is moving through you, guiding you, living as you. This is the invisible threshold, the moment you stop being a stranger to your own vastness and begin remembering that you are, and always have been, part of the infinite field of quantum consciousness. The moment you awaken to quantum consciousness, life begins to speak to you in a language that feels both mysterious and intimately familiar. It is as if reality itself leans closer, whispering through experiences you once ignored. Suddenly, what you dismissed as random begins to feel orchestrated. What you once labeled as coincidence reveals itself as precision, and the more you pay attention, the more undeniable it becomes. One of the first signs is synchronicity. Imagine thinking of someone you haven't spoken to in years, and suddenly their name appears in your inbox, or they call you the very next day. Imagine walking through your daily routine and overhearing a sentence that perfectly answers the question you had been silently holding in your heart. Imagine dreaming of a symbol, only to encounter it in waking life hours later. These moments are not accidents. They are the field responding, aligning your inner frequency with outer experience. Your body also begins to register the shift. Perhaps you've felt it already. A tingling in your hands, warmth spreading through your chest, or the sensation of subtle currents moving across your skin. These are not hallucinations. They are the physical echoes of your awareness syncing with the quantum field. Your body, once perceived only as flesh and bone, reveals itself as an instrument of energy, finely tuned to the vibrations of consciousness itself. Time, too, begins to reveal its fluid nature. Hours may collapse into what feels like moments when you're absorbed in presence, while a single second can stretch into an eternity of awareness. You realize that time is not a rigid line, but a pliable fabric, bending in response to the depth of your consciousness. The more awake you become, the more you notice these subtle flexes in the flow of time. Dreams shift as well. They become vibrant, layered, filled with symbols that carry meaning beyond the personal. They begin to bleed into waking life, weaving a bridge between your inner and outer worlds. You wake with the distinct sense that your dreams were not mere stories of the subconscious, but conversations with the field, reminders of paths opening before you. And perhaps the most profound sign is the quiet recognition that settles within you. It doesn't need proof. It doesn't need explanation. It feels like a remembering, a certainty that the universe is not indifferent, not silent, but alive and responsive. Every thought, every intention, every emotion is heard, mirrored back to you in ways that defy logic but resonate as truth. When you begin to notice these signs, something remarkable happens. Your trust deepens. Instead of seeing life as random, you begin to experience it as a dialogue, you and the universe, communicating constantly through synchronicity, sensation, intuition, and resonance. Once you notice this dialogue, you can never unsee it. The veil has been lifted, and reality reveals itself as a living mirror. And now let me ask you, have you noticed any of these signs in your own life? A coincidence too sharp to ignore, a dream that spoke louder than words, an intuition that proved undeniable? Share it in the comments by writing your most powerful synchronicity. Not only will this anchor your experience into the field, but it may also be the very sign someone else is waiting to see today. For most of your life, you were taught to believe in separation. You were told that you are one person among billions, moving through a universe indifferent to your existence. You were told that your thoughts belong to you alone, your emotions are private, and that your actions ripple only as far as your immediate circle. This conditioning created a sense of isolation, a quiet loneliness that lingered even when you were surrounded by others. It is one of the greatest illusions humanity has ever lived under, the illusion of separation. But when you awaken to quantum consciousness, this illusion begins to dissolve. You start to sense what mystics, sages, and visionaries have whispered for centuries. You are not separate at all. You are not a drop apart from the ocean. You are the ocean itself, momentarily experiencing life through the perspective of a drop. The love you extend does not vanish into the void. It circulates, returning to you in unexpected ways. The harm you project does not disappear. It echoes back, teaching you that what you send into the field is what you will inevitably meet again. Unity becomes more than an idea. It becomes a felt experience. You look at another person and no longer see just their face, their story, their body. You sense their energy as a reflection of your own. Their joy uplifts you because it is your joy mirrored back. Their pain moves you because it is your pain vibrating in another form. And suddenly, compassion is no longer something you strive for. It is the natural response of knowing there is no true other. Even your relationship with the natural world changes. The trees are no longer just objects providing shade. They are living extensions of the same consciousness flowing through you. The stars above are no longer distant balls of fire. They are cosmic mirrors reminding you of your own infinite nature. Every bird's song, every ripple of water, every gust of wind begins to feel like a direct communication with the same intelligence that beats your heart. When the illusion of separation dissolves, fear begins to lose its power. Fear has always thrived on the belief that you are alone, small, and disconnected. But in unity, you realize there is nothing to defend against, nothing to conquer, nothing to fear, because you are part of everything, and everything is part of you. Even challenges transform. They are no longer punishments from an external world, but invitations from the deeper self to expand, to integrate, to remember. This is the gift of dissolving separation. Life stops being a battlefield and begins to reveal itself as a dance of energy, reflection, and creation, where every step you take shapes not only your reality, but the collective field we all share. And as you move in awareness of this unity, you step into a deeper truth. You have never been separate. You only believed you were. The veil was the illusion. The connection is the reality. For much of your life, you may have carried the subtle, or sometimes heavy, feeling that life is something happening to you. Circumstances seemed random, challenges appeared out of nowhere, and victories felt as if they were granted by luck or fate rather than born from your own power. This way of seeing the world is deeply ingrained in the old paradigm of separation, the belief that you are a small being in a vast, indifferent universe. But when you awaken to quantum consciousness, this story no longer holds. It begins to unravel, strand by strand, until you can no longer pretend to be powerless. The realization strikes gently at first. You begin to notice how your inner world and outer reality are not separate, but mirrors of one another. The conversations you have are tinged with the emotions you carry. The opportunities you attract reflect the beliefs you hold about yourself. Even the so-called obstacles seem to emerge not as punishments from an external force, but as responses to the frequencies you project. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, victimhood dissolves, and in its place arises something far more empowering. The truth that you are a conscious creator, This does not mean controlling every detail of reality with sheer willpower. It means aligning with the intelligence that is already creating reality through you and with you. Thoughts, emotions, and intentions are not fleeting sparks lost in the void. They are signatures in the field, ripples that extend beyond what the eye can see. And the field, being perfectly coherent, always responds. To dwell in fear is to invite experiences that validate fear. To anchor in gratitude is to magnetize more reasons to be grateful. To imagine your highest self is to begin walking the path that makes that self real. Notice how this transforms your relationship with challenges. Instead of seeing obstacles as enemies to be defeated, you begin to see them as mirrors, showing you where your vibration is misaligned, where your energy is asking to be refined. This shift is not about self-blame, it is about reclaiming responsibility. It is about realizing that every event carries within it a hidden invitation, the chance to step more fully into alignment, to expand into greater awareness, to remember your role as creator. And paradoxically, the more responsibility you take, the lighter you become. You stop carrying the heavy burden of blame, whether directed at others, at life, or at yourself. You stop waiting for rescue or permission. You begin to realize that freedom was never about control, but about awareness. When you are aware, you can choose. And when you can choose, you are no longer trapped by the momentum of old patterns. Even when you fall back into fear, doubt, or old narratives, the difference is clear. You no longer drown in them. You see them as frequencies, vibrations you can shift. You become the sculptor of your reality, molding it not with brute force, but with intention, presence, and alignment. This shift touches everything. Relationships stop being battlegrounds for unmet needs and instead become mirrors for self-discovery. Work ceases to be only survival and begins to feel like expression. Even the mundane details of daily life take on new meaning because you recognize that every moment is a canvas upon which you paint with your awareness. You are not waiting for life to hand you purpose anymore. You realize that you are the purpose. That existence itself flows through you, creating and recreating in every breath. And from this space, life begins to unfold differently. Doors that were once closed begin to open. Paths that seemed invisible reveal themselves. Events that would have felt random now feel orchestrated with a precision that defies logic but feels undeniable. This is the end of victimhood, not because struggle disappears, but because you finally see that struggle was never proof of your weakness. It was always a call to remember your strength. You are not a helpless passenger on the ride of life. You are a conscious co-creator, aligning with the rhythm of the universe, shaping reality with the energy you carry, moment by moment, choice by choice, breath by breath. Once you step into quantum consciousness, you begin to realize that the universe has always been speaking to you, not in the language of words, but in the language of signs, patterns, and synchronicities. This is the language of alignment, the subtle but undeniable dialogue between your inner state and the outer reality that reflects it. Think of the times when everything seemed to fall into place effortlessly. You thought of someone and they appeared. You envisioned a possibility and doors opened. You followed a hunch and it led you exactly where you needed to be. These moments are not random. They are synchronicities, precise reflections of the frequency you are carrying, answers from the field to the vibrations you broadcast. The beauty of synchronicity is that it confirms what you may have suspected all along. You are not moving through an indifferent world. You are moving through a responsive field that mirrors back to you the energy you embody. When you walk in fear, the universe answers with obstacles. When you anchor yourself in trust, the universe replies with opportunities. When you vibrate in love, life echoes it back in forms both subtle and miraculous. To notice these alignments, however, requires presence. Most people miss them because they are distracted, lost in thought, convinced that reality is mechanical. But once your awareness sharpens, you begin to see how life is constantly speaking to you. The right person shows up at the right time. The right message appears when you most need it. The right opportunity arrives when you are ready to receive it. And the more you trust this dialogue, the stronger and clearer it becomes. This is the universe's way of telling you that you are not separate. that you are not a passive observer, that you are in constant co-creation with the field. Every synchronicity is a reminder. You are aligned, you are heard, you are guided, and now, let me invite you into an act of alignment. If you feel this resonance, if you recognize that the universe has already been speaking to you through synchronicity, anchor it right now by commenting a single word: alignment. Write it not just as a word, but as a declaration, a signal to the field that you are listening, that you are ready to keep noticing, that you are choosing to walk in harmony with the intelligence guiding your path. For as long as you can remember, you have lived under the rule of the clock. Seconds, minutes, hours, each one marching forward in strict order, indifferent to your feelings, unstoppable in its flow. You were taught to believe that time is linear, a straight road from birth to death, with the past fixed forever and the future a mystery waiting ahead. This belief shaped the way you saw yourself, as a traveler on a narrow path, powerless to return to what was and blind to what is coming. But awakening to quantum consciousness shatters this illusion. Time is not a rigid line. It is not a prison of cause and effect. Time is a field, vast, fluid, multidimensional. It moves not only forward but inward, outward, and all at once. It bends and stretches according to awareness. Imagine an ocean, endless and shimmering, where currents flow in every direction. This is closer to the reality of time. Your past, present, and future are not disconnected islands, but waves of the same water, touching and influencing one another in ways your old mind could not comprehend. Think about moments when you healed an old wound, and suddenly the past felt different. The memory itself did not vanish, but the pain surrounding it softened. The story shifted, the meaning transformed. What you once called a failure became a lesson. What you once saw as betrayal revealed itself as a turning point. This is not imagination. It is the present moment rewriting the past. In quantum terms, the frequency you embody now collapses one version of the past and allows a new version to come alive. The same happens with the future. Perhaps you have had a dream so vivid, it felt as if you had already lived it. Or a sudden flash of intuition that showed you what was to come before it unfolded. These glimpses are not fantasy. They are windows into parallel timelines already existing in the field, waiting for your alignment to make them real. The choices you make now, not tomorrow, not yesterday, but now, are what tune your awareness into one timeline over another. This is why presence is sacred. The present moment is not just a fleeting second on a clock. It is the portal of creation, the central point through which every timeline passes. When you anchor yourself in presence, truly here, not lost in memory or worry, you discover that this moment contains everything: the seeds of healing for the past, the blueprint of your future, and the living breath of your existence. When you live unaware of this, time feels heavy. You carry regrets like stones in your pocket, believing the past can never be undone. You drag fear ahead of you, believing the future is something to dread. But when you awaken to the fluid nature of time, you realize that both regret and fear dissolve in the presence of awareness. You are no longer trapped by what was, or paralyzed by what might be. You are free to create from now. This realization transforms how you live. You stop rushing because you see there is nowhere to get to. All of time is already here. You stop clinging because you realize nothing is truly lost. Every experience still exists within the field, transformed by your perspective. You stop fearing endings because you recognize that endings are simply transitions between timelines, invitations to shift your vibration and step into new expressions of reality. Linear time was the illusion that kept you small. Fluid time is the truth that makes you limitless. When you remember this, even for a moment, the grip of the clock begins to loosen. You start to feel less like a prisoner of time and more like a navigator of it. You realize that time is not an enemy you are racing against, but an ally responding to your state of being. And when you live from this awareness, every moment becomes Not something slipping away, but something expanding. A canvas of infinite possibility, right here, right now. There is a moment in every awakening when you realize that what has been weighing you down is not the weight of the world, but the weight of your resistance to it. Resistance takes many shapes. The desperate need to control how things unfold, the endless struggle to force outcomes, the tight grip on what feels familiar even when it no longer serves you. For years, perhaps decades, this resistance seemed necessary. It gave you a sense of safety, an illusion of order, the feeling that if you just pushed hard enough, you could bend reality to your will. But here is the paradox. The more you fought, the more exhausted you became. And still, peace eluded you. Awakening to quantum consciousness exposes this truth with piercing clarity. Control is the greatest illusion, and surrender is the greatest power. Surrender is not weakness, it is not defeat, it is not resignation. True surrender is the courageous choice to release the need to fight against the flow of life and instead trust it. It is not passive, it is profoundly active. It requires more strength to let go than to cling, more wisdom to trust than to doubt, more faith to flow than to force. When you surrender, you do not fall into emptiness, you fall into alignment. You begin to see that there is an intelligence far greater than your limited perspective, an intelligence that orchestrates galaxies, births stars, spins planets, breathes through every living being, and has been guiding your own path all along. To surrender is to align with this intelligence, to finally recognize that it knows what you cannot yet see. It is the realization that you are not navigating life alone, but with a force vast, creative, and infinitely loving. Think of the times you resisted change with every fiber of your being. Perhaps you clung to a relationship, a job, a dream that was crumbling. You fought the unraveling, terrified of what would happen if you let go. And yet, when the change finally arrived, when you had no choice but to release, what happened? Often, you discovered that the ending was a beginning, the loss a gift, the detour, the very path you were meant to walk. What seemed like collapse was really redirection. This is the wisdom of surrender. It reveals that nothing is taken from you without reason, and nothing truly meant for you can ever be lost. Surrender also changes how you experience time. In resistance, every delay feels like punishment, every pause like stagnation. You ask yourself, why isn't it happening yet, and spiral into frustration. But surrender shows you that timing is not random. What you call waiting is not emptiness, but preparation. Every pause is alignment, calibration, the invisible work of the universe arranging circumstances in ways you cannot yet perceive. In hindsight, you often see it clearly. The delay was protection, the waiting was wisdom, the timing was perfect. In surrender, peace begins to bloom. The current of life no longer feels like an enemy to swim against, but a river carrying you exactly where you need to go. The tension in your body softens, the noise in your mind quiets. You discover the freedom of no longer needing to grasp, to cling, to manipulate, and instead of being dragged by fear, you are lifted by trust. Life feels lighter, freer, more miraculous, not because all challenges vanish, but because you meet them with a different heart, a heart aligned with the flow rather than against. This is not a philosophy to believe in, but a reality to live. When you surrender, you begin to take inspired action without anxiety. You pursue dreams without desperation. You move through uncertainty without fear. You no longer need to know every detail before stepping forward, because you trust that the step itself will reveal the path. You realize that what is meant for you cannot miss you, and what is not meant for you cannot stay. Surrender is the art of participation without control. It is the courage to meet life as it is, and to discover that as it is far more intelligent, far more compassionate, far more aligned than anything you could have forced into place. And in that surrender, you do not lose yourself. You finally meet yourself as you truly are, vast, connected, and free. As we arrive at the close of this journey, let us pause and recognize what has unfolded. You began by believing you were here by chance. That these words, this moment, this message simply happened to cross your path. But deep within, you know better. Nothing is random. Every step, every encounter, every stirring within you has been guiding you here, to the remembrance of what you have always been. Consciousness itself, vast and unbroken, awakening to its quantum nature. Through this exploration, you have seen how the illusion of separation dissolves, how the universe speaks through synchronicity, how time bends and reshapes itself, how surrender reveals a power far greater than control. You have felt, even if only faintly, the truth that you are not a passive observer of reality, but an active participant in its unfolding. The thoughts you carry, the emotions you embody, the intentions you declare, they are not private whispers, lost in the void. They are signals, frequencies, resonances shaping the field of existence itself. And perhaps the greatest realization of all, you are not on this journey alone. Every time you align with love instead of fear, presence instead of distraction, surrender instead of resistance, you contribute not only to your own awakening, but to the awakening of all humanity. You become part of a living network of consciousness rising across the planet. A collective remembering that we were never separate, that we were always one field, one ocean, one infinite self, reflecting through countless waves of experience. This is why this moment matters. Because the choice you make now, how you think, how you feel, how you respond, echoes through the web of creation. You are not powerless, you never were. You are a creator, a co-weaver of reality, a spark of the eternal intelligence that holds galaxies together. And the more you embody this truth, the more miraculous your life becomes. So I leave you with this. Trust the process. Embrace the unknown. Flow with the current of the field rather than against it. Remember that what is meant for you cannot miss you, and what is not meant for you cannot stay. Carry quantum consciousness not as an idea, but as a way of living, in your thoughts, in your relationships, in the way you breathe through each moment. And before we close, I want to invite you into something simple but powerful. If these words resonated, if you feel even a spark of recognition stirring within you, take a moment and write the word "awakened" in the comments. Let it be your declaration, your signal to the field, your affirmation that you are ready to live this truth, not just hear it. And if you have not yet subscribed, do so now. Not just to stay connected to these messages, but to stay connected to yourself, to your highest frequency, to the path your soul already knows is yours to walk. This is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning. The doorway has opened. The light has been turned on. And though you may sometimes forget, though you may drift into old patterns, you will never again be able to fully sleep. For once, you have unlocked quantum consciousness. You carry its flame forever. Welcome home. Welcome to yourself. Welcome to the infinite.